So people say to me, do you believe in God? And I think, okay, there's a couple of mysteries in that question. What do you mean do? What do you mean you? What do you mean believe? And what do you mean God?
All right, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Shalor back again with another one. Hey, conservatives are getting their asses kicked in debates right now against liberals. Charlie Kirk was in the debate. Even though the kid stormed off, he didn't really do a thing. But we'll get into Jordan Peterson on this one. Jordan Peterson was in a debate on the Jubilee, 20 atheists versus one Christian, something like that. The one Christian that's represented is Jordan Peterson. Not really a Christian, in my opinion. Let's get into the clip you'll see why I say he's not really a Christian.
What makes someone a Christian and what makes someone not a Christian? What makes like that's what I'm trying to figure out, because
That's a good question.
Yes.
Yeah, well, probably the deepest answer to that is willingness to shoulder your cross voluntarily and trudge uphill regardless of circumstances.
Okay, so someone can have a God, because in your definition, your first preference, that is God, right? So someone can believe in God, right, and not be a Christian, right?
Yeah, well, there's a statement that Christ makes in the Gospels. He says, not everyone who says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven.
So not that they're even saying that they believe in God, but they just...
No, but that's why I'm saying this to you, is that Christ himself points out that there's a difference between people who say they believe and people who act it out. And the fundamental issue is the action rather than the stated belief.
But he also says that, to be saved, right, you must believe God has died for your sins, or that God has resurrected in some way. So it's like, I don't necessarily think that we can take from the Bible and say that like acting in accordance with God necessarily means, or acting in accordance with, the principles of God, like for example, sacrifice, like you talk about, means that you are Christian. I don't see how you can get that from that interpretation and then, kind of justify it as the truth.
I don't think that the fact that you sacrifice is sufficient to make you Christian.
What makes
All right, so you see that clip. This is the first one with the young lady right here. So Jordan Peterson, you can tell he knows things about the Bible, but he doesn't know what it means to follow the Bible or follow God or to be a Christian. Now, most people are not Christian. They say they are Christian, but they are not, because basically how we look at Christian is to follow Christ. Now, Christ says, in order to love him, you must do his commandments or follow his commandments. Most Christians will teach against following the commandments. You just have to believe and have faith. But faith without works is dead. The works are of the law. You have to display these things of the law. I know most people don't agree with that, but it is what it is. Jordan Peterson had a good little rebuttal, saying that many will call, the line, and I think it's in the book of Matthew, many will say, Lord, 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 I did many works in your name, but your heart was far from me. I never knew you. That's what Christ will say to him. But Jordan Peterson also said, it's basically to be a Christian is just to carry your burden and all this other mess. No, to be a Christian or to be a follower of Christ is that you must have faith, okay? And you must practice what the faith is, which you display that through your works of the law. Thou shalt not do this, X, Y, and Z, loving your brother and all this other stuff and your neighbor. According to the Bible, you don't eat these things, you don't wear this, you don't behave that way. Like basically the moral, civil, dietary laws. Now we know some things of the law we will not practice based on there not being a priesthood and Levites to do the sacrifice, all that stuff. But most of it pretty much simple, straightforward, you can follow. So that's the chink in his armor. He's not really a Christian. Jordan Peterson has a grip right now where he is jumping on the Christian bandwagon, because if you don't remember, Jordan Peterson came from Canada around the time, maybe like around 2019, 2020, where they were teaching that women can be men, men can be women, and he said no, he didn't want to teach that stuff, and he kind of got He was the only professor that you heard speaking like a man, just telling the actual truth. But he's also a very weak man, because when the jab came out and he was in Canada and they were telling him he had to get it, he had to get it, he didn't stand on his principles and say no. He said in an interview that he got it because he thought they would leave him alone.
Canadians who aren't vaccinated now cannot leave the country. Yeah. Like, what the hell? Why is that? And look, I got vaccinated and people took me to task for that. And I thought, all right, I'll get the damn vaccine. Here's the deal, guys. I'll get the vaccine. You fucking leave me alone. And did that work? No.
No shit, Sherlock.
That's a weak man. No, man. You're not supposed to give in to the bully, because they're never going to leave you alone. They're just going to take. But that's Jordan Peterson. So many conservatives love Jordan Peterson because he is very philosophical. He has a lot of thoughts. He has a lot of good points on the whole man versus woman and the transgender war and all this other stuff. He's a somewhat conservative, but he's not really. He's just a modern day conservative liberal, I would say. So he doesn't really stand on much. And in this next clip, you'll see how much he doesn't really know about the Bible, and that he's not a Christian at all.
Why is that relevant?
Because you go to a Catholic church, don't you? Or you've attended recently. You're interested in Catholicism, aren't you?
Sure.
All right. Are you familiar with their doctrines?
Somewhat.
Okay, you're
Their
familiar.
doctrines are very
How do they
deep.
regard Mary?
Why are you asking me that?
Because you're a Christian.
You say that. I haven't claimed that.
Oh, what is this? Is this Christians versus atheists?
I don't know.
You don't know where you are right now.
Don't be a smartass.
Well,
and I mean
either you're a
'cause I
Christian
won't
or you're
talk
not.
to you if you're a smartass.
Oh, either you're a Christian or you're not. Which one is it?
I could be either of them, but I don't have to tell you.
You don't have to tell me. I was under the impression I was invited to talk to a Christian. Am I not talking to a Christian?
No, you were invited to.
I think everyone should look at the title of the YouTube channel. You're probably in the wrong YouTube video.
You're really quite something, you are.
Aren't I? But you're really quite nothing, right? You're not a Christian.
Okay, I'm done with him. Why is that?
Man, that little liberal smacked his little monkey ass. Man, look. Jordan Peterson is a well-known, I believe he's documented, he was an atheist before, and nothing has changed. He is an atheist now. He found a lane with the conservative movement here in America, who most conservatives claim to be Christian. I would argue that most of them are not. They're mostly just degenerates, but they do have good points when it comes to certain moral things and just how to run the country. I agree with him on that. But so he comes over here, he sides with the conservatives because that's who's championing him, which is fine. I see nothing wrong with that. But so he needs their backing to fight the left. So he takes on this persona of a Christian. Okay, he wants to fit in with the conservatives. So he'll never say he's a Christian. Okay, he'll never say that he's a Christian, but he won't say that he isn't. Or so when that to me, that's just a man who is playing the fence. He's double-minded. And if you're double-minded, you're on the ladder. You're not a Christian. You're not a man of faith, and that's fine. But there's no way that he should be on this show. That the little young liberal guy right there he hit it on the head. He says you're nothing, which Jordan Peterson can't say he's a Christian. He won't say he's an atheist. He's nothing. He put it right on the money. You have to take a side. You have to stand on one side. Either you're hot or cold. If you're lukewarm, you get spit out. That's scripture talk. And Jordan Peterson is nothing. He won't take a stand because he really doesn't believe. He wants to make everything metaphors and allegory through the Bible, and he can see it, for deeper meanings, that it helps man and all this other stuff. No. Did Christ die for your sins? Okay. Did Moses part the sea with a staff and some people running through it? Did Jonah get swallowed by the whale or the fish? See, that's tough to say because he's an intellectual. He's into science and all this other stuff. So it would go against everything that he knows or what he believes he knows. The world is revolving around the sun 1,000 miles an hour while rotating and hurling through the infinite void and all this other stuff. People believe this stuff. It goes against their scriptural faith, but most people don't really have much of faith because they don't actually believe in the Bible. It's just traditional for most, and it helps them win good moral arguments for the most part. But let's get into the next clip.
Lie to like save your children, your mom, your dad.
I don't think lying would save them.
Can there ever be a circumstance logically that lying could save someone?
Yeah, and if you're steeped in sin, you're likely to live in circumstances like that.
I'll give you an example. If you're like in like Nazi Germany, and it is the case that there's like Jewish people in your attic and you're trying to protect them, would you lie to like the Nazis?
I would have done everything I bloody well could, so I wouldn't be in that situation to begin with. It's a hypothetical, and it's not answerable.
Hypotheticals?
No, I can't answer a hypothetical like that because it's far. Look. Don't play games.
I'm not playing games. I'm just asking if you ate it.
If you present me with an intractable moral choice that's stripped of context and you back me into a corner, you're playing game. I just told you I would do everything that I could.
And I believe this is about, I think before this, it talks about, Christians lying and things of this nature is good. And would he save himself by lying? Or would he lie to save himself? And he's, you see how he's dancing around. He won't even answer the question. He won't even say what it is. He should just say that I would stand on my principles and I would die like a man. And you can see in that boy's face, he knows Jordan Peterson is full of shit.
To make sure that I'm never in that situation. By the time you've got there, you've made so many mistakes that there's nothing you can do that isn't a sin.
Being born in Nazi Germany and trying to protect people that you care about, like there could be a Jewish friend that you have and you want to protect them.
I think you should just give up on that line of questioning.
Give up on just like trying to clarify your position? Because are you like uncomfortable with me asking this question? It's just a basic hypothetical. Like I could ask you.
It's just a basic hypothetical where you put Jews' lives at stake in Nazi Germany. That's just a basic hypothetical.
Obviously, you would lie in that scenario to save their life, but you're like not trying to answer this question for some reason.
I just told you why.
Are you anti-fascist? Like, so you're anti-fascist?
Why are you asking that?
I was just asking, just clarifying. But like, okay, again, you're not answering this hypothetical because it shows that you clearly would lie to save someone's life.
I'm answering it in a manner you don't find acceptable.
Obviously, because I care about truth.
I wouldn't be in that scenario.
Obviously, right? Logically, because that's already happened. Like that's in the past. You don't have a time to travel device. We're bringing this logical hypothetical up to show you that in some circumstances that do happen within the real world, you would lie to save people's lives. So your definition of truth isn't actually how we're typically using it. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to muddy the waters when I ask you, like, do you believe this? Do you think this to be true? So you don't actually have to answer the questions. And plenty of Christians don't like that because they clearly see that you don't really want to be associated with Christianity.
I can imagine that I was in a situation where the best I could do as a consequence of my previous mistakes was to tell the least amount of lie I could manage. But that would likely indicate that I had made all sorts of catastrophic errors on my way there.
So you would lie to save someone's life. So again, you do believe it to be true in that circumstance, even though you lied in that scenario. So
not without the context that I put it in.
You were not willing to die for it. You were not willing to let other people die for it. So that's not what you see to be true then, seemingly.
You're doing exactly what I said you were doing at the beginning of the conversation. You're generating an impossible, restricted, hypothetical with no precursors to back me into a corner.
How is it possible? Is there something contradictory?
Now you see, Jordan Peterson, he just stands for nothing. He's the same person who took the COVID shot because he wanted people to leave him alone. That's not manly. That's not manly. And he's saying, oh, I would try to tell the least amount of the lie. Jordan Peterson would lie to save his life. Okay? He wouldn't lie to save other people. Jordan Peterson is weak. He does not believe in the Bible. I don't know why they had him on here to say that he's a Christian, to defend the faith. They could have got anybody. They could have got a real Christian. They could have got Wes Huff. They could have got an Israelite, a Hebrew Israelite. They could have got somebody, okay, that really believes in the book and that can really debate these topics, but they got a liberal Canadian, because he's liberal. I don't care how much he, sounds good with the, men can't be women. He's liberal. Most people are very liberal. Charlie Kirk included. Okay, all these people are very liberal. They just stand on another side. I appreciate the conservatism takes, but they are not conservatives. That's why they find themselves in these shitholes of arguments with people who can do decent debates. Going to those campuses and debating the blue-haired liberals. No, see, these kids right here are a little step above, and they're going to challenge the things that, because most of these people don't read the Bible, they don't study their faith, they just claim to be a Christian. But y'all let me know in the comments below if y'all think Jordan Peterson is really a Christian. Did he do a good job? Did the liberal kids put foots off in him and then Donkey Kong stomp with both foots in his backside? But y'all like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll holler at y'all in another one. Peace.